This presentation is about revising for conciseness. Readers have difficulty processing information when it's wordy. And wordy can be sort of a vague claim, especially when you're critiquing an author's work. One way we could define it is to say that wordiness is stylistic problems that result in the overuse of empty words. So to revise wordy text requires stating the message more concisely with fewer words without sacrificing important information, detracting readability, or creating an undesirable tone. But still, even the definition of wordiness presented here is still vague. Which words are empty? So one way of avoiding the vagueness when telling an author that they are being wordy is to stick to principles about what cause wordiness. So focus on the obstacles to concision. What are the writing behaviors that tend to work against being concise? So here are 4 categories: overusing the main verb be, using an expletive structure, using nominals, and using hedges. First, overuse of the main verb be. So the verb be can be constructed in all the ways that you see here: am, be, being, was, are, been, is, were. But what happens when that's the main verb of a sentence is that it tends to hide specific, more concrete verbs. And as a result, you have to use more words in general. So one way to revise a sentence that might be wordy is look for when an author is using their main verb as be. That's not always a bad thing, but in some cases it could be worded differently. So when you see a sentence that has the main verb as a form of be, look for the hidden verb and convert it to the main verb. So the wordy version here is: the report is an analysis of the problem. Well, the hidden verb is when the author chose to use analysis as the noun when there's a verb hidden in that word, analyze. So convert that to the main verb. So the revision is: this report analyzes the problem. We got rid of a few words, and also we've stuck to our principle that we want to try to avoid having the main verb be some form of be. The next obstacle to concision is when an author uses an expletive structure. An expletive sentence begins with there or it, followed by a form of be. There is, it was, there could be, there are, and so on. It creates more words because it puts an informative word, it or there, as the subject and a verb like be after it. So it takes a lot longer to get to what the author is actually trying to say, and as a result for the reader it takes longer to process the meaning. So when you see there is, it was, there could, and so on, an expletive structure, try to look for another noun or verb in the sentence that's after it and make it the main verb instead. So the wordy version here is: it is necessary for us to do something. Well, us is probably the actor in this sentence, so why not we change that to the subject and maybe call it we. Also, there are words like necessary, find, or solution that might be a verb instead of is. So we might say we need to do something, we must do something, we need to find a solution, or whatever. So the point here is avoid the expletives. Now nominals. A nominal works against concision because it's a noun derived from a verb, usually by adding suffixes like anc, ence, ion, or ment to that verb. So you can sense that you could probably just convert that to a verb and not use the nominal. His memo contains a recommendation. Well, why not just use recommendation as the main verb? So his memo recommends. Who is responsible for the supervision of the temporary staff? So maybe supervision, which is hiding a verb there, notice the suffix at the end, ion, could probably just be the main verb, and maybe that temporary staff could be the object of it. Who supervises the temporary staff? Obviously fewer words, but the principle was we stuck to avoiding the nominal. Lastly, hedges. Hedges are verbs or adjectives referring to belief or hope about the future. So I believe, I think, I hope. And it might include also verbs referring to your intentions, aim, you intend, you plan, or some modal or adverb referring to possibility or potential, such as can, would, might, possibly, perhaps. The point here is you could probably get rid of those words, especially when you're in a context in which you need to show confidence and just state what you mean. Not only does it get rid of words, but it obviously gives the right tone. However, sometimes you might want to keep them, such as when you're making a claim that should be qualified or may not be what you need to state so confidently. So if you're making a large claim, you might put possibly or it might, for example. So these are the obstacles that work against concision. So we're critiquing an author for being wordy. Stick to the concrete obstacles that you could point to, saying things like, you try to avoid expletives like there are in order to make your writing less wordy. So hopefully these obstacles can be avoided and you can communicate well with authors and not just say that their writing is wordy and needs to be more concise.